Hey guys, it's Ellie. Welcome back to Bite-Sized Book of Mormon. I'm glad to have you with me. So if you've never been here before, this is just a podcast where I read through one chapter of the Book of Mormon each episode, and I give a little bit of context, a little bit of insight, a little bit of good times, so stick around. So if you remember last episode, we read Alma chapter 50, which was very centered on Captain Moroni's preparations for war. It went into pretty decent detail on how he not only fortified the cities, but also fortified the entire Nephite border, and also how he dealt with some internal conflicts that started to screw up the peace that had been brung by his preparations. So anyways, go ahead and listen to that if you haven't already. But yeah, I think without further ado, let's read Alma chapter 51. And now it came to pass in the commencement of the 25th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi, they having established peace between the people of Lehi and the people of Morianton concerning their lands, and having commenced the 25th year in peace, nevertheless they did not long maintain an entire peace in the land, for there began to be a contention among the people concerning the chief judge Pahoran. For behold, there were a part of the people who desired that a few particular points of the law should be altered. But behold, Pahoran would not alter nor suffer the law to be altered, therefore he did not hearken to those who had sent in their voices with their petitions concerning the altering of the law. Therefore those who were desirous that the law should be altered were angry with him, and desired that he should no longer be chief judge over the land. Therefore there arose a warm dispute concerning the matter, but not unto bloodshed. And it came to pass that those who were desirous that Pahoran should be dethroned from the judgment seat were called kingmen, for they were desirous that the law should be altered in a manner to overthrow the free government and to establish a king over the land. So in the first 4 verses, doesn't it kind of sound like Pahoran is in the wrong? Where some people in seemingly good faith sent in petitions to the chief judge and went, hey, we want this certain law to be changed. But Pahoran was the one that dug in his heels and said, absolutely not, I'm not going to let that happen. That sounds like he's in the wrong, right? Because he's not willing to be flexible and evolve the law as it should be evolved. But then we get to the end of verse 5, where it is revealed that those people that want to change the law actually want to change the very basis of their government entirely. If you remember when King Mosiah established the reign of the judges after he ended being king, the entire point was to not have a king anymore, because should they have a wicked king, that would screw over the entire people. But if they have one wicked judge, that wouldn't really have a great effect on the people, right? And so it's kind of a safeguard against wickedness in the city. And yet these people want to change that. They want to revert it back to having a king. So these people are called the kingmen and are kind of rebelling against the current government. So let's see how that goes. And those who were desirous that Pahoran should remain chief judge over the land took upon them the name of freemen, and thus was the division among them, for the freemen had sworn or covenanted to maintain their rights and the privileges of their religion by a free government. And it came to pass that this matter of their contention was settled by the voice of the people, and it came to pass that the voice of the people came in favor of the freemen, and Pahoran retained the judgment seat, which caused much rejoicing among the brethren of Pahoran, and also many of the people of liberty, who also put the kingmen to silence, that they durst not oppose, but were obliged to maintain the cause of freedom. Now those who were in favor of kings were those of high birth, and they sought to be kings, and they were supported by those who sought power and authority over the people. But behold, this was a critical time for such contentions to be among the people of Nephi. For behold, Amalickiah had again stirred up the hearts of the people of the Lamanites against the people of the Nephites, and he was gathering together soldiers from all parts of his land and arming them, and preparing for war with all diligence, for he had sworn to drink the blood of Moroni. So all this internal conflict is happening, the kingmen versus the freemen wanting to alter the law, and then them voting and not getting it altered, and then the kingmen are just kind of stewing in their dissatisfaction for the government. And at the same time, Amalickiah is once again mustering an army to attack the Nephites, because he apparently desperately wants to know what Captain Moroni's blood tastes like. Sounds like a totally healthy obsession. Anyways. So yeah, things are not going super great because there's both inner tensions and outer tensions, and so are the Nephites going to snap in two between the kingmen and the freemen, or is Captain Moroni going to pull some of his trademark magic and pull the people to unity once again? Who knows? Let's find out. But behold, we shall see that his promise which he made was rash. Nevertheless, he did prepare himself and his armies to come to battle against the Nephites. Now his armies were not so great as they had hitherto been, because of the many thousands who had been slain by the hands of the Nephites, but notwithstanding their great loss, Amalickiah had gathered together a wonderfully great army, insomuch that he feared not to come down to the land of Zarahemla. Yea, even Amalickiah did himself come down at the head of the Lamanites, and it was in the 25th year of the reign of the judges, and it was at the same time that they had begun to settle the affairs of their contentions concerning the chief judge Pahoran. And it came to pass that when the men who were called kingmen had heard that the Lamanites were coming down to battle against them, they were glad in their hearts, and they refused to take up arms, for they were so wroth with the chief judge, and also with the people of liberty, that they would not take up arms to defend their country. And it came to pass that when Moroni saw this, and also saw that the Lamanites were coming into the borders of the land, he was exceedingly wroth because of the stubbornness of those people whom he had labored with so much diligence to preserve. Yea, he was exceedingly wroth, his soul was filled with anger against them. So Amalickiah's army may be smaller than it was before, but it is a lot more bold, because if you remember, with his army before, he didn't go in front of them, and he also just sent them to attack kind of the outer, weaker cities of the Nephites. They first attacked Ammonihah, which had previously been destroyed by them, and then they went to Noah, which was also previously a very weak city. But this time, they're willing to go right to the heart. They're headed to Zarahemla itself, the capital city of the Nephites. And Amalickiah is leading his army in person. And so this attack is much more serious and bold than the previous ones have been. And also, these kingmen are opportunists. They see that a big army is coming to attack, and they are very gladly choosing not to fight in protest. They're not defending their own city that they live in because of a political dispute. Because they want more power over the people, they are not fighting in protest. Which is exceedingly selfish of them, I gotta say. Like, other people's families live here. You're not gonna do everything you can possibly do to defend them? Because this army is coming straight to the heart of the Nephite lands. They are not pulling any punches. They're probably prepared to kill a lot of people. And these kingmen are selfishly sitting around, refusing to do anything. And Captain Moroni, as it says in verse 14, he's mad. He's like, I have done so much to protect you guys. He's like, my entire life has been protecting the people of Nephi, and you guys are not helping. You guys are ungrateful for all the work that I have done to protect this entire land in a way that has not been done before. And you're just gonna sit around? Anyways, let's see what Captain Moroni does with his anger for the kingmen. And it came to pass that he sent a petition with the voice of the people unto the governor of the land, desiring that he should read it, and give him, Moroni, power to compel those dissenters to defend their country or to put them to death. For it was his first care to put an end to such contentions and dissensions among the people. For behold, this had been hitherto a cause of all their destruction, and it came to pass that it was granted according to the voice of the people. And it came to pass that Moroni commanded that his army should go against those kingmen to pull down their pride and their nobility and level them with the earth, or they should take up arms and support the cause of liberty. And it came to pass that the armies did march forth against them, and they did pull down their pride and their nobility, insomuch that as they did lift their weapons of war to fight against the men of Moroni, they were hewn down and leveled to the earth. And it came to pass that there were 4,000 of those dissenters who were hewn down by the sword, and those of their leaders who were not slain in battle were taken and cast into prison, for there was no time for their trials at this period. And the remainder of those dissenters, rather than be smitten down to the earth by the sword, yielded to the standard of liberty, and were compelled to hoist the title of liberty upon their towers and in their cities, and to take up arms in defense of their country. So Moroni flexes his power a little bit. He asks the governor, hey, can I be allowed to kill these people if they aren't willing to fight for us? And the governor goes, yeah, go ahead. And then he sends his armies to attack and, if needed, kill these kingmen in order to force them to fight or die. Because this teaches a wider lesson about preparing ourselves for temptation. Moroni focused on resolving the inner problems first. Because if you're not inwardly strong, you can't defend yourself well against outward threats. And so he either turned the dissenters back to his side or killed them off entirely to ensure that the people of Nephi were united. That is a very intense way of dealing with inner conflict, right? He killed off thousands of people in order to ensure that they were a united people. But at the same time in the Bible, Jesus talks about cutting off limbs if they tempt you to sin. And so this seems pretty in line with the Bible. He killed thousands of people in order to ensure that his people were prepared to deal with the quote-unquote temptations of Satan. And Jesus himself in the Bible is talking about chopping off limbs or pulling out eyes. So This feels like it matches, right? It's a very intense, a very hyperbolic way of talking about preparing for temptation, but at the same time, it definitely holds truth. You have to be sure that you are internally unified, that there is no dissonance or tension within you, because that will make you weaker. And thus Moroni put an end to those kingmen, that there were not any known by the appellation of kingmen, and thus he put an end to the stubbornness and the pride of those people who professed the blood of nobility, but they were brought down to humble themselves like unto their brethren, and to fight valiantly for their freedom from bondage. Behold, it came to pass that while Moroni was thus breaking down the wars and contentions among his own people, and subjecting them to peace and civilization, and making regulations to prepare for war against the Lamanites, behold, the Lamanites had come into the land of Moroni, which was in the borders by the seashore. And it came to pass that the Nephites were not sufficiently strong in the city of Moroni. Therefore Amalickiah did drive them, slaying many. And it came to pass that Amalickiah took possession of the city, yea, possession of all their fortifications. And those who fled out of the city of Moroni came to the city of Nephihah, and also the people of the city of Lehi gathered themselves together, and made preparations and were ready to receive the Lamanites to battle. But it came to pass that Amalickiah would not suffer the Lamanites to go against the city of Nephihah to battle, but kept them down by the seashore, leaving men in every city to maintain and defend it. So the first city that has been attacked is the city of Moroni. And it says in verse 23 that the Nephites there were not sufficiently strong to defend against Amalickiah. I personally argue that that is because the survivors of the previous attacks on Ammonihah and Noah came back and reported on the kinds of fortifications that Captain Moroni put around all of his cities, and so they knew what they were facing against. They knew how to counter it. They had maybe worked on strategies before even coming to attack at all. Maybe those strategies are the reason that they're being so bold. And at the same time, Amalickiah knows when he's beat. He doesn't even try to attack Nephihah because they're much better fortified and they were very specifically prepared for Amalickiah's coming. And so he didn't even give in to his greed and to his conquering spirit. He just stayed on the seashore and decided to live another day. So he learns from his mistakes. Amalickiah is very, very smart. He strategizes. He's subtle. What a guy. What an interesting person to learn from in the war chapters. And thus he went on, taking possession of many cities, the city of Nephihah, the city of Lehi, and the city of Morianton, and the city of Omner, and the city of Gid, and the city of Mulek, all of which were on the east borders by the seashore. And thus had the Lamanites obtained, by the cunning of Amalickiah, so many cities by their numberless hosts, all of which were strongly fortified after the manner of the fortifications of Moroni, all of which afforded strongholds for the Lamanites. And it came to pass that they marched to the borders of the land bountiful, driving the Nephites before them and slaying many. But it came to pass that they were met by Teancum, who had slain Morianton and had headed his people in his flight. And it came to pass that he headed Amalickiah also, as he was marching forth with his numerous army, that he might take possession of the land bountiful, and also the land northward. But behold, he met with a disappointment by being repulsed by Teancum and his men, for they were great warriors, for every man of Teancum did exceed the Lamanites in their strength and in their skill of war, insomuch that they did gain advantage over the Lamanites. So Teancum's army is finally winning against Amalickiah and his horde, because Amalickiah, he's been winning so far. He has like a small handful of stronghold cities now, and Teancum, luckily, has been able to stop him because apparently, according to verse 31, all of his soldiers are just absolute chads. They are absolutely built and they know how to do war. So anyways, let's see what Teancum and his army end up doing now that they finally have the upper hand among this barging horde of Amalickiah's people. And it came to pass that they did harass them, insomuch that they did slay them even until it was dark. And it came to pass that Teancum and his men did pitch their tents in the borders of the land bountiful, and Amalickiah did pitch his tents in the borders on the beach by the seashore. And after this manner were they driven. And it came to pass that when the night had come, Teancum and his servants stole forth and went out by night, and went into the camp of Amalickiah, and behold, sleep had overpowered them because of their much fatigue, which was caused by the labors and heat of the day. And it came to pass that Teancum stole privily into the tent of the king, and put a javelin to his heart, and he did cause the death of the king immediately, that he did not awake his servants. And then he returned again privily to his own camp, and behold his men were asleep, and he awoke them, and told them all the things that he had done. And he caused that his armies should stand in readiness, lest the Lamanites had awakened and should come upon them. And thus ended the 25th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi, and thus ended the days of Amalickiah. So, for multiple chapters now, Amalickiah has been a looming threat. He's subtle, he's smart, he learns from his mistakes. He is a very good Satan figure through and through, as I've discussed multiple times. And now he's dead. And so I think that there's a lot that we can learn from the way that he was killed. So Teancum, the general of this Nephite army that was finally able to get an upper hand over Amalickiah and his people, he goes by night out of his tent. And he sneaks over to the king's tent itself. Don't ask me how he got there. And he puts a javelin in his heart. And it kills him so fast that Amalickiah can't even call for his guards. So that is quite a dramatic and quick and sudden way of killing someone. And I think that that teaches us a lot about how we should treat temptations when they're in our lives. We should snuff them out. We should give them no time to bargain, no time to alert others, no time to protest. Because Amalickiah is Amalickiah, and we know the horrible destroying potential that he has. You know, if you're the one killing him, you don't want to give him the platform to try and manipulate you, because that is something that he's very, very good at. And so that is why Teancum's strategy worked so well, because he did not give Teancum any opportunity to say even a word or to do anything. He just put a javelin to his heart and called that good. I think if you applied this strategy in real life when it comes to our temptations, that could be like going cold turkey from something and not letting it have any influence in your life anymore. You change your environment, you change your life and your habits to not allow that habit, that addiction, to happen anymore at all. That kind of complete habit change is something that this chapter talks about. Also, I just want to say, Teancum is freaking awesome. What a guy! He has the balls to walk up to this king's tent in the middle of the night, probably crawling past dozens of guards and thousands of soldiers, and he just goes in, kills a guy, and leaves. And the army doesn't even wake up and notice until the next morning. Oh my gosh, that was freaking awesome. Actually, for a few years, my brother had a shirt that used to say, Teancum, the original American ninja warrior, which I think absolutely fits. Anyways, what a dramatic ending to this chapter, right? So the stand-up verse is going to be verse 16, which says, For it was his first care to put an end to such contentions and dissensions among the people. For behold, this had been hitherto a cause of all their destruction, and it came to pass that it was granted according to the voice of the people. So that's the verse where Moroni gets approval from the government to kill or attack or convert kind of these kingmen. And that is because, as I mentioned before, Moroni wants to resolve this internal conflict, this internal tension first. Because if you have a united front, you are much stronger, much harder to get into if everyone is on the same page. And if you have people in your city that hate the city and kind of want to see it fall, that is not going to help. And so Moroni really focuses on resolving the inner stuff before even starting to deal with the outer stuff that's approaching. And again, that very much applies to us. Before we can start dealing with outer temptations, we have to start dealing with the inner ones. So anyways, not only does this chapter very much apply to us in our quest to avoid temptation, but it also just is an awesome story in general. Like, this bold Lamanite army comes to attack the Nephites, and at the same time, oh no, there's internal conflict and internal civil war brewing. And then once Moroni snuffs that out, the Lamanite army comes to attack, and they get city after city after city, and then this one dramatic army finally comes and is able to cut them off and finally fight them back a little bit. And one night, after a long day of battle, the general of that Nephite army comes and kills the Lamanite general in his sleep. That is amazing. That is such a good story. Oh my gosh. This is part of the reason that I love the war chapters. Not only do they teach us stuff, but also, holy crap, that's awesome. Anyways, that was the episode for today. I hope you enjoyed. I definitely did, as you just heard. But yeah, there's just a few links down in the show notes that I want to let you know about. The first one is a quick let me know you learned link, so if you're going to shoot me a message and chat about something Book of Mormon related, I'll be there. Or you can DM me on Instagram, either way. Next, there is a handful of links to access a digital copy of the Book of Mormon, so if you want to read along with the podcast or just find a chapter that you really like, you can go ahead and click those. Next, there's a quick support the show link, so if you really like what I do and you want to support me, that's a way to do it, and it'd be greatly appreciated. Next, we are on YouTube, so if you want to access the podcast there on that platform just twice a week, as usual, you can go ahead and subscribe there. I also post YouTube shorts there, so yeah, it's a good time. And finally, we are on Instagram, so if you want to find me where I'm the most active, go ahead and follow that account and find my reels and find my stories and find some trivia. It's a good time, all in all. But yeah, that's all I've got for you today. I'll talk to you later. Bye.